John 8:2. Et diluculo iterum venit in templum, et omnis populus venit ad eum, et sedens docebat eos. And again, at dawn or daybreak, he came into the temple, and the whole people came to him, and he, sitting there, was teaching them. This is a nice model of a simple narrative sentence in the Vulgate, and this is the sort of sentence in the Vulgate that draws people in, particularly in the Gospels, and especially if they've had even a little bit of Latin, helps them to realize, hey, wow, this isn't necessarily so hard. Now, there are, of course, sentences and paragraphs which are trickier, which involve more complex grammar or some squirrely sort of late antique constructions that are unfamiliar to those who've learned on classical Latin. But this is not one of those. This is nice and straightforward, and it shows a few typical features of Vulgate syntax. For instance, venit ad eum, and we might also single out this kind of paratactic rhythm. This happened, and then this happened. Of course, that's in the Greek as well. It's not unique to the Latin translation, but this is what it looks like dressed in Latin garb, and it makes really suitable material. Particularly, I would put this bug in your ear for children or young people who are learning Latin for the first time. Such sentences are not too hard, of course, for them to understand, and can even be acted out or drawn out. There's lots of different ways to teach them. So this is a nice, clear model sentence, complete with a wonderful little time adverb, diluculo, which means at daybreak, at dawn, very early in the morning, something like that. There's also a verb, diluceo, which means to be clear or evident or obvious. That's related here. You can see the root from lux hiding behind this, and luceo, for there to be light, for something to shine. Here it all is. So diluculo originally meant something like at the time when the light was bright enough to see by. Let's say something like that. Bright enough to make the world clear and evident around you, the physical world. So diluculo you can simply get by with the ablativus temporis there, the ablative of time, or you might say time when something happened. Nice and compact. So et diluculo iterum venit in templum. This is not the first time, right, that he's been to this place. Et omnis populus venit ad eum. The whole people came to him. Then you might be thrown off here by the change of subject back to Jesus. You know, in the midst of that here, we've got this other clause with omnis populus being the subject, but here we're back to Jesus, sedens. And this is a good example also of how participles, as in Greek, can kind of round out the amount of detail that you can give in a Latin sentence quite efficiently. While he was sitting there or being seated, docebat eos, he was teaching them. What was he teaching them? Well, we're going to find out, but this is also a good opportunity to remind ourselves this verb, doceo, docere, often takes two accusatives, accusative of the person or people taught, as well as the accusative of the thing being taught, the subject matter. Now, that's not particularly relevant here, but we take whatever opportunity we can get to remember such things.